Windows Phone Central Podcast 142 for May 9th, 2012. Hey everybody, Dan Rubino, joined once again by Jay Bennett and Rafael Rivera for another exciting, Windows Phone Podcast, of course, our bi-weekly analysis of what's going on in the news. And of course, there's tons of stuff going on. We'll try not to keep it all Nokia dominated. In fact, we're going to start off with some Samsung news, surprisingly.
I know, it's scary, isn't it? We haven't had anything to talk about Samsung for ages.
It's true. How are you doing, Jay? Before we go around the road here.
Yeah, I'm feeling all right. Feeling not too bad. Actually doing well on sleep this week for a nice change, which from the sounds of it is the exact opposite of your week.
Yeah, but that's the usual, so be it.
As I put it, I think you're the world's worst sleep technician or whatever you want the official word is, considering the number of hours sleep you actually managed to get.
Yeah, well, that's the side effect of our job. We don't sleep, so others may. That's kind of like our motto. Or
so noble.
It's totally true.
Raphael, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. I need to take my Lumia back.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. I think I've hit every single issue that has been reported on this phone.
Actually, I think you have a few that others haven't reported, because I remember seeing you tweeting about some sound issues too. Right.
So usually when I make a phone call with either Jenny or someone else, they can't hear me unless I put the phone into my mouth. Also, I just discovered yesterday that with Skype, there's no way for me to transmit audio. I can't use a mic, a headset, anything. So I don't know. I think I got a dud.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounds like it. That's something.
I've known about a couple of mic issues, just because if I hold my phone to my ear like that, people immediately can't hear me because it's like I'm muffling the mic or something. So maybe I've got the same one.
Interesting.
I heard that before. Still, mine's not going back because I feel bad about taking things back. It's like I'm being insulted.
Yeah, same here. It feels like a waste.
Yeah.
It's like you spend so much time making... Anyway.
Yeah, but at least they fixed the purple screen issue, so...
Yes. Well, we'll get to the 900 bugs, of which there are a few in a few moments. But first, let's start off with Samsung Focus 2. So let's start with the story. It was pretty much, I think it was the weekend was starting. We got a tip about some photos being leaked from WPZap, which is, I believe, a Chinese forum. And we got the images that were quickly pulled. And it was of a Samsung phone. It was in glossy white. And it was called, the code name was the Mandel. It looked like about a 4-inch screen device or around that part with only about 8 gigs of storage. And we couldn't see the front, although there was the Zoom sync image. And to be honest, at the time we figured, well, maybe this was a phone that, it was clearly AT&T, but maybe the phone was canceled because it didn't come out with the other phones, the 900, of course, and the Titan 2 at the time. And we didn't know the status of it. It was actually a pretty quiet and well-hidden device. And then Monday, CTIA, the phone gets announced. It's the Focus 2. Kind of interesting play here. No one really predicted this was coming. Actually, I didn't see a single site get this prediction accurate. I mean, we just knew something from Samsung and a 4G LTE device. But the device comes out, I believe it's May 20th or right around there. It's going to be $49 on contract. I'm not sure what it is off, but it'll be probably pretty cheap. We're going to go back and forth with this all the time. People always want the super high-end Windows phones and, the Titan 2s and the 900s or, further than that, whereas this is a more middle-of-the-road device. Having said that, I think it's sharp-looking. I actually really, really like it, and response to it so far has been pretty positive. I don't think a lot of people in our audience are going to be the first buyers for it, but still, it's an interesting question whether or not we need another mid-range phone, but $49, it seems to be, pretty well priced. I imagine on Amazon it'll be $0 soon. So, what do you guys think?
So it's the phone is, let's be honest, it's the Galaxy S3 for Windows Phone. If I'm not looking at it incorrectly, it's the same design. It's the Samsung Mandel was the code name. Am I right?
Right.
Or
yeah.
Mandel, however you pronounce that. I think it's really interesting design. I think it's one of those designs that you need to see in person to decide if it's good, because it looks like it isn't that high quality a design build, but then again, when you looked at the My Omnia 7, you didn't think it was that high quality a build until you actually picked it up and used it, and it felt like a really good phone. I think the screen looks gorgeous. I think that's probably going to be one of the areas that Samsung are going to sort of blow it out of the water there. And I think that based on the spec sheet reads off relatively well. with the exception of, is it another one which has only got 8 gigabytes of storage, which I just can't get my head around, considering this is supposed to be kind of like their high-end device. But apart from that storage, nothing in there looks disappointing. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good phone. Except for the camera. Oh no, I forgot that camera's only 5 megapixel. I can't tell where Samsung are positioning this. Raphael, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just gonna say. You mentioned it. It looked like a high-end device, but it looks sort of like an entry-level device. But I don't know. It's kind of hard to determine what category this is supposed to be in. But I will say I did take a hard look at it because I'm not the kind of guy who takes a lot of photos or stores music or video on this thing. So 8 gigs, while it sounds meager, it's okay for me. And the cameras, again, I'm not out taking pictures with this thing. I have a DSLR that I carry around. So those things were okay for me. Let's see. And it has a 1.4 gig processor, which is, I think, on par with the Lumia 900. Am I correct there? Yeah. I'm not sure if it's a Snapdragon or not, but I guess it would have to be.
Yeah.
It would say safe assumption, yeah.
Okay, yeah. The only thing, though, is that, Nokia's got this strong grip on these applications that I think we're talking about next. But that and the quality of the screen, I guess, would be better.
And the screen's a 4-incher as well, and a 4-inch is a really good size for a phone. It's not so big that it sort of sucks too much power and starts to sort of look a little bit.
Yeah, let's not forget, I've been a Samsung Focus guy since day one. I mean, I've been sporting my Gen 1 device until recently. So when I saw the Focus 2, it's like, oh, I don't know, it looks interesting.
Yeah, but it's a little bit smaller, but it's a bit heavier as well than the original Focus.
Yeah, it's a little stubbier. I mean, Samsung had great success with the original Focus, and so it makes sense along with Samsung's philosophy of why rock the boat that they didn't change it too much. I'm going to pick up the phone myself just because it's kind of my job, but I'm actually I know I say that like I'm being forced to. I'm actually kind of a little excited about it. I kind of like the device actually. I use on T-Mobile the 710 and the the Radar, and so people always kind of knock those devices as being mid-range, and fair enough. Some people really do want that higher end stuff, but the Radar is one of my favorite little phones on Windows Phone right now. I think it's a great device. Even the 710 I think is nice too. So I'm okay with these sort of low mid-range devices. Like what Raphael says, it depends on your preferences and what you actually do with it. And Samsung's cameras are pretty decent. 5 megapixel, if it's done right, the Radar is a 5 megapixel camera too. It takes nice photos, partly because it has a BSI sensor on it. But the potential is there for it to actually be a decent camera, even at 5 megapixel. It's not really the be-all, end-all of cameras these days, the megapixel count. So neat device. Absolutely. We'll see it in a couple weeks. We'll have it on hands for review soon too. And if you haven't seen it already, go check out our hands-on video. Phil down at CTA from Android Central managed to go play with it and seemed to like it. So I think it'll be a pretty decent. So
an interesting thing to think about with this one as well is that it looks like it's going to be priced pretty aggressively. I can almost see this at a level. It's clearly competing with the 710, but considering it's a full-blown Windows Phone experience, it's the 512 RAM. It's to a degree competing with, in my opinion, beating out the Nokia Lumia 610 as well.
Yeah. It's weird. It's actually a different market. I would say it's, what makes it different though is it has a front-facing camera and 4G LTE. Those two things actually kind of make it higher end than even the 800 in that sense. And so for a $49 phone to have LTE, and I tell you, we got that speeds all over New York City. It's ridiculously fast. And a front-facing camera. It's actually a good bargain. It's a robust phone. It takes a little bit from every category and gives you a little bit of that. I'd be curious if it has the compass feature enabled, which is optional for OEM.
Yeah, I was wondering what sensors it had, because this might be a phone that people can pick up and use as a stopgap waiting for Apollo phones to come out, right?
Yes, that's a good point.
I would definitely pick this up if you're waiting.
It's $399 off contract, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it is? Okay, that's actually a fair price. That's not too bad at all.
So let's talk about this then. So what are Samsung doing here? I mean, it doesn't seem like they're playing to win the Windows Phone game. If they wanted to do that, they'd have chucked 16, maybe even 32 gig into this phone. It's pretty much the main spec that matters now on the Windows phones, and bumped up the camera megapixels if only just for the spec sheet. So what is Samsung doing? Are they still playing the Windows Phone game, or have they thought, okay, we'll put a low-end device out there? We didn't sell that well in the first case, and we'll just try and keep our heads in the game while we wait for Apollo.
I think Samsung, they're a good company. They're definitely supporting Windows Phone. I mean, we had the Focus 2, the Flash, the Focus S. I'm having trouble keeping up with all their names. And clearly they're keeping the Focus line alive. And they're here, but I don't know. It's weird. I find they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They want to do well, and I think they're ready for it to explode, but they're not themselves driving the adoption of Windows Phone. Even though everybody who has a Samsung Windows Phone seems to be happy with it, and I think that's appropriate. Yeah. They're good phones, So
absolutely love mine.
Yeah.
So here's my other question, that just out of curiosity. You mentioned the Focus S there. The Focus S obviously has the 4.3-inch screen. It also has the 8 gig of memory. It's also priced very
16.
aggressively.
I think it's
16 gig, is it? Oh, and an 8 megapixel camera.
Yeah.
So the Focus S appears to be a higher spec Windows Phone device than the new Focus 2.
Right.
And as far as we know, the screen is awesome in that one as well.
It's a better screen. It's a Super AMOLED Plus, right?
Exactly. I don't know. I'm really like you said. I think they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's a stopgap phone.
That's because this is about LTE. So the Focus S isn't an LTE phone, and this is about AT&T pushing LTE. And so they're starting off first with they wanted something in their low end, $49 bin to start offering that service to people. Mind you, it doesn't cost any extra to get LTE. It's the same cost, same data package. And so they really do want to offload people though from the 3G network onto LTE where they can, both because consumers enjoy it more, but also helps their network. So that's really the game plan here. People have to remember, it's easy to kind of criticize Samsung here for, say, putting out a low-end device. This isn't like Samsung just goes to AT&T, hey, we want to sell a phone. Here it is, take it and sell it. These are negotiations that happen between the companies. AT&T basically goes to Samsung, this is what we're looking for, and then Samsung builds it. Had AT&T wanted a super high-end device with 32 gigs of memory, a 12 megapixel camera, and everything else under the hood, they could have gotten that, and I'm sure Samsung would have built it for them.
So possibly they're trying to keep the Lumia 900 alive.
Well, I think AT&T knows what they want, and they want low, medium, and high-end phones, overlapping a bit, no doubt, but they wanted that sort of separate categories here. And so AT&T is the customer here, not us directly. So AT&T wanted this phone, they wanted those specs, and presumably they know what's best for their network or what sells. So we kind of have to leave it to them. I understand our audience wants, all these super high-end devices, and that's totally understandable. But like I said, if AT&T had really wanted that, they would have ordered it. And so, I mean, there's a good evidence that the Titan 2 was driven by AT&T wanting a 4G LTE device and, that 16 megapixel camera and stuff like that. So we have to be a little cautious here not to criticize Samsung too much. Having said that, I still think it's a great looking device and it'll sell well.
It does. So. It does look great. I just want to very quickly pick up something that BSAC said in our chat room here, saying nobody faults Samsung for releasing this phone, but nobody can say that Samsung and HTC did good jobs at promoting the platform. Nokia is the only one doing anything to push the platform and give people what they want. We're about to talk about the Nokia position at the moment and sort of your very controversial article that went up today. And I do just want to point out that HTC actually did do a fair amount of marketing for their new line of Windows phones when the original Titan and the Radar originally came out, especially over here overseas from America. There was an awful lot of HTC advertising around. They had their TV spots. It wasn't as much as what Nokia have done, but comparatively, HTC did a fair amount to push the phone and the platform out. So I just wanted to point that out. Let's talk about the exclusive apps, because you wrote a fantastic editorial today. So I think it's down to you, Dan, to talk us through this story.
Yeah, I had every once in a while, I'm trying to get more time to write editorial pieces like this, and so sort of had a moment of inspiration last night to talk about this, because I started seeing the tech press starting to push on this Nokia causing fragmentation in Windows Phone, and it wasn't. These articles aren't very well written because they kind of gloss over and talk about how they're creating apps, and then there's going to be fragmentation. But this is why I started as a starting point. I referenced Charlie Kindle's story talking about fragmentation, because there isn't one type of fragmentation, and so if you just say Nokia is causing it. What do you actually mean by that? And so I want to help define that a little bit and sort of categorize it, because not all fragmentation is bad. It may exist and cause fragmentation. It doesn't mean it's necessarily bad for the platform. What Nokia is doing is a type of fragmentation. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying at this point in time, it's actually sort of a good fragmentation. Only because
should we clarify what they're doing? Should we clarify what they're doing?
So what Nokia's doing is they're making these exclusive deals with companies to make apps and provide services to users directly. The big one announced today was Six Flags, which this is actually a really big deal. It's almost sort of, the press has sort of been glossing over this a little bit too. But basically Six Flags, Nokia hooking up, Nokia's making an app for Six Flags parks that Lumia users will be able to download and use. Now, they did this for a Mobile World Congress. If you go back, you'll see the app I kind of reviewed for that. And it was a killer app. I mean, it was really, really nice. And I was almost jealous that I discovered it like on the last day of Mobile World Congress, because it would have been extremely useful. Assuming it's going to be like that, and it should be. It's going to give a map of the place and tell you where stuff are and listing things, price specials. It's going to be really, really good. Now, that's in of itself a cool deal. But the other big part is the fact that basically it sounds like the Lumia 900 is going to become like the phone of Six Flags, meaning that when you walk around, the advertisements there are going to be focused on Nokia. That's big because, man, those parks, and there's quite a few of them, are all about young people. And to get that sort of advertising exposure is really, really good for the platform. And so, but this continuation of Nokia gaining all these apps, and there was an app announced yesterday with PayPal and ESPN.
Angry Birds Space, of course.
Yeah. And so, Rovio, they're going to have deals to, accelerate those games to be brought over. It's really good for the platform. Now, this is what I'm talking about with the fragmentation. Is it good for you as an individual user who has an LG or HTC phone? Of course not. Obviously, I'm a big user of the Titan too. Obviously, those users are going to feel a little bit pushed out. But that is an unfortunate consequence of where we are right now with Windows Phone. Nokia needs to do this, not just for themselves, but for the platform. The fact is, we're only at about 2% of market share for the last 2 years. And we're just doing this. We're kind of cruising along, bumping up every once in a while. Even Nokia with their 800 bumped up a little bit. But we haven't exploded yet. And so you either hope that happens or you force that to happen. So I'll admit these are sort of drastic actions that Nokia are doing. It's almost signs of desperation that we have to do this to get developers and these exclusive these apps onto the platform.
I'm not sure if I agree with you that it's a sign of desperation there. And the reason primarily for that is that I don't think Nokia are just paying money here to these guys. I think the Nokia, as pointed out in your article, are quite keen to lend developer aid. And I've noticed an awful lot of Nokia advertisements for jobs, which are looking for developers who are good with C#, with XAML, have published an application that has got a certain number of downloads. And I'm starting to think that it's not just for the ability to develop Nokia's own apps. I think it's actually to pick up on these exclusives for these companies. I think Nokia is in a way acting as a consultancy for Windows Phone. So developers can start doing that.
Sure.
Renee just wants that Nokia to stay away from me. If they offered me a job, you wouldn't see me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and this goes back to when I was at CES in January, and I showed off, or it was Mobile World Congress, where I showed off their new app for developers that they can make video commercial and stuff like that. Clearly, Nokia is filling this role of developer evangelist for the platform, and they're going that extra level that HTC and Samsung just haven't done. And this is why people ask, I think this is good for a platform. The fact is, Nokia went from nothing to the top OEM for Windows Phone in 1 quarter. They're the only company that's really, really pushing this stuff. And so, unfortunately, this is the growing pains that we have to go through to get this OS accepted. I think we can start worrying about individual feelings of being hurt and betrayed by LG and Windows Phone and Microsoft later on, when we actually have a chance of succeeding. Because right now, we really need to have this moment of basically exploding. So it's an unfortunate thing. Now, a good question that I brought up and that others have brought up is, why hasn't Microsoft been able to do this themselves, and so that everybody can benefit. And it's a good question. And the only thing I could say is they have. I mean, the only reason we have Angry Birds in the first place is because I think Microsoft kind of strong-armed Rovio or threw money at them. And let's also remember when Windows Phone launched back in October 2010, it launched with the most first list titles than any other platform ever has. We had eBay, we had Twitter, we had Amazon, we had all these. Yeah, we had all these apps right out the gate, and iPhone didn't do that, Android didn't do that, and that was only because Microsoft threw money at these companies, worked with developers and all that, and so they are. As far as why Nokia is able to do this a little bit better, I just think it's because their roots go deep with developers. They just have really good connections to these companies and know how to leverage things, and that's that. Raphael, I'm curious about your views on this, because I know you've been sort of a little bit on the opposite. You've been a little bit negative on this or concerned about it. So I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Well, I was initially in the camp where that these exclusive apps would definitely hurt, especially consumers, and that maybe alienating all your users except Nokia ones, maybe result in no Windows Phone existing. But I think I read your articles, especially the one where you broke down that all these quote unquote exclusive apps are not exclusive forever, right?
Right.
They have most of these apps that we care about have expiration dates on them, and then you'll see them on all the phones. So I'm starting to be pulled into the camp where this is actually pretty awesome, and maybe who knows? Maybe we don't need the other phones. Maybe we just need Nokia to rise and push out their devices and create kind of like an iPhone-like scenario here, where there's only one Windows Phone, the Nokia one. Who cares about the other plastic ones? But I don't know.
I mean,
I think those that feel like they're being pushed out, sorry. I wish your OEM did a little bit more. I mean, right now HTC and Samsung are, they're just HTC and Samsung. They're not doing anything.
At the end of the day, if Windows Phone and the Nokia phones become what, as unfortunately I like to, you hate to use the word, but cool, and they start attracting that kind of mind share, that will bring HTC and Samsung into the game. As Dan points out in his article, it's all about because Nokia have no plan B. This is their Hail Mary pass, if you like.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead.
That's just it. If Nokia can grow this and actually cause Windows Phone to explode and get huge, there's more for HTC and Samsung to eventually, more audience for them to sell to. And so if we're 2 years from now and Windows Phone's doing well, we got 10% in market share, we're rocking and rolling, and we're still doing this exclusive app thing and everybody's doing it now and HTC, then I could definitely see a problem. And now we've gone from, is our OS viable in the marketplace, to, okay, we're here and stable now. Now I think that's an interesting discussion about whether that's good for the platform. But right now, we just don't have the luxury to worry about this. I'm a huge Windows Phone supporter, but we don't have the market share. We're not exploding. And so we need to take drastic actions. There's that expression I mentioned in comments, in order to make an omelet, you got to crack a few eggs. And that sucks. It really does. I understand for LG and HTC owners, Samsung owners, that this is bad. I'm not saying that, but for the good of the platform and its success, Nokia has done more for this OS than I think almost Microsoft has. I mean that's kind of weird to say Microsoft makes it stuff, but you know what I'm saying, as far as promoting, getting it out there. They're working with developers. They're really just going at all levels to grow this, and so that's good because what's doing is attracting more developers to the platform. I think ever since Nokia has come on board, we're seeing more high-end developers. And this week we've been announcing a lot of, Viber came onto Windows Phone finally. We're seeing just a lot more of these big name apps finally reaching us. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think Nokia, the name, is dragging those developers with them. And like Raphael said, if we do have sort of like an iPhone model for a while, if there was one company I'd want that to happen with, it would be Nokia. I mean, I'll be the first to admit their hardware isn't always the best, but it does have this appeal to it that we actually need right now. But I think in the end, this is going to benefit everyone. So it's tough medicine to swallow. If we have to keep using analogies and cliches, that's the only way I can describe it. It's unfortunate we have to do this, but I don't think there's much choice at this point. So.
Yeah, and think of the alternative, right? Like if we go back into an alternate universe or something, like what would we have, right? We'd have nothing.
Yeah. I mean, these apps wouldn't be coming here if it wasn't for Nokia, apparently. It's a shame. PayPal could have always done an app. They've had 2 years. HTC could have maybe done something to lure them, but it never happened. Somehow Nokia has this magic where they're getting these companies to the table, and not only are they bringing apps, but they're bringing pretty killer apps. Every time they do something, like, for instance, the Caddy Plus app that came out this week for Nokia, we've been talking about that for a while. That app is already on the marketplace, Executive Caddy. This is an enhanced version with augmented reality and all sorts of other features. They have this little knack for picking up really cool apps and doing neat things with them. So all I can say is get a Nokia phone. I know it's not everybody can do that, and not everybody wants it, and that's totally understandable. But that's going to be kind of where we are right now.
So let's move on a little bit. In fact, because I realize we're 2 stories in about 15 something minutes.
All right, snap time.
No, we'll get to the apps in a second. First of all, I think we want to quickly talk about the changes to the marketplace that were announced this week. The changes themselves were a little bit, I don't know what the word is, but they weren't exactly serious. It was kind of stop using explicit images in your app icons.
So the way I would put this is there's 1,200 words of nothing in that blog post.
Yeah.
There were no changes to the marketplace. It was purely advice. Thin legal advice.
The keywords one. The keywords one was good.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. They're going to enforce 3 or 5 or whatever the hell the number is.
Well,
something they should have done from the beginning, right?
Yeah, well, that's just it, right? They should have done it from the beginning. That's true.
We may have. I may have put more than 5 in for the latest update for our app.
But it's extremely frustrating when you what happens, people. For those who are curious, what we're talking about is when you go to the marketplace and you search for an app and you type in either a name or service or its description, you're getting a lot of false positives. You're getting a lot of apps that have nothing to do with what you're talking about and show up anyway. Same when you do the related. You slide over and get related. It's just stuff that's off the wall. And that's because developers are putting keywords that are like high impact keywords. So it's things that people are searching for frequently. So their app gets noticed. It's a lot of crap. As Raphael pointed out, it should have been done from the beginning. But now they're actually going to go through when people submit apps, they're going to verify those keywords. And if they get reports of apps that violate this, they'll take care of it. And now at least there is an email you can actually email app violations to, that's sort of nice actually.
Yeah, but we should point out this does also mean that a couple of people have had their apps pulled. So YouTube Live is one of them because at the end of the day they don't own the YouTube brand. That app's been pulled, which is fair. That there's copyrights in place for a reason. To be honest, if part of me wonders if we should do something similar with the other WPCentral apps. But it's sort of one of those situations where it had to happen. If it's actually a sign, perhaps, that people are paying attention to the marketplace. If YouTube have said, "Hang on a second, we want to pull this," it'd be better, of course, if YouTube would come up with some awesome app for Windows Phone rather than just relying on that web front. But c'est la vie. But yeah, it's something that kind of had to happen. It's not really a big story apart from the fact that a couple of apps are going to disappear now because of trademark violations.
Yeah. So hopefully those apps will come back. They just got to rename and rebrand themselves. And we'll see what happens.
I think it's important to note that Microsoft is not sending these takedown notices.
Right. It's because
it's just from the companies that have kind of woken up to the fact that, there's all this copyright spam in the marketplace. So, Microsoft is not doing any of this.
Yeah, my big one, of course, by pet peeve was bandwidth got pulled by a complaint from Speedtestnet, which gets a big middle finger from me. Mostly because he didn't even advertise that it was a Speedtestnet app, and he didn't use it in the title. He was just using their service. And it's a brilliant app. It was done very well. He updated it regularly, and it was no ads, and he wasn't making any money from it. It was clearly just a donation thing for the community. and they complained, and a lot of people are like, well, maybe they're coming out with their own app. That's a reasonable hypothesis, but it's false. They've said on Twitter, no. And I just think that's a jerk thing to do. It's like, I kind of did this with cracked.com. I got mad because there was a great app on there by, I think it was Trash Pants. I forgot his name, his Twitter name, but he's actually a really good developer. It was a great app, and they complained. But then they also had their own official app that just came out, and so okay, I'll let that slide. That makes sense. But Speedtest, if you guys not going to do an app, at least let us have one, or at least work with the developer already that's out there and be like, hey, this is kind of a cool app. Mind if we co-brand it? Okay, but
license it or something.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then Pandora. Yeah, so let's bring up Pandora right now. That's I don't think Pandora is actively trying to block these apps on Windows Phone. I don't think they probably even care or know that these exist. Yeah, I think it's just
we've got slides from Microsoft that suggest that Pandora are actively not developing for Windows Phone.
Right. Yeah. Supposedly, according to MS Nerd, is because Pandora wants ads in the play controls. When you bring down and it shows the artist info and play and pause, that they want ads up in that, and that can't be done. And so they just don't want the ads in the app. And so that's supposedly what the sticking point is. But yeah, right now, fixes for the Pandora app should be coming out. But yeah, that's kind of, this is an ongoing problem with the platform. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then before we move on, just wanted to note that Dudley, our buddy, is back. He thought he would get around my legal eye by only publishing to the UK marketplace. Unfortunately, copyright still holds strong there. So I sent another takedown notice. This time he put some turtle game using the same copyrighted emulator code that I took him down for last time. So
he's very tenacious.
You're flexing.
What's interesting
again,
though is despite the blog post by the Windows Phone guy saying, look, they're ramping up infringers. I sent this note a couple days ago. Nothing back from them. It's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Hopefully it'll take less than 2 or 3 weeks like it did last time.
Right.
So from words that say nothing to saying words for no reason at all, let's move to my ridiculous story of the week. Investors are suing Nokia for fraud surrounding the Lumia 900 and Windows Phone, and this is one of those stories when I'm glad I don't live in the US. No offense meant to people who live there. You're all lovely people, but your legal system is ridiculous at times. Defendant statements have decided that because Nokia said that Lumia 900 was going to be an amazing phone, it was a materially false statement and misleading because Nokia's migration to Windows platform was not going as well as represented. And because of that little glitch, which Nokia then offered to pay $100, that means that all the share prices have dropped and investors are now suing. It's an investment. There's risk involved. Good God.
Yeah. This is actually brought by one person who filed it as a class action suit. So not all investors are on board with this. But yeah, sure. Obviously, it's nonsense. It's bad press for Nokia, that's for sure. That it's not going to probably go anywhere. But yeah, this idea that Nokia's had some problems. There's bad blood with Nokia, specifically the people who were fond of Symbian and the old Nokia, aka the Nokia that was going nowhere and dying. Right. And they don't like the ELOP Microsoft thing. Due to hostility with, those companies. We talked about this investor meeting, and this story was getting out that Skype is hurting Lumia sales, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. The iPhone and Android have Skype on them. The Lumia doesn't come with Skype built into it in any way. Yeah. It wasn't even available for half of the lives of the Lumia devices. And they were like, ELOP said this. And it was all second and third hand information. Business Insider posted a story like it was legit. And they cite this website with this hack who, I forgot his name, but he's an avowed, he hates Microsoft and he hates Stephen Elop. I mean, he's publicly said this and saying that he thinks Elop should be tarred and feathered and they should fire him and all this. And this guy is reporting on all this nonsense, and news sites are picking it up like it was legit. I mean, it's embarrassing. And so there's clearly this element of Nokia people who have been long following the company who don't like where things are going, and they're doing everything they can to throw mud on the company. And so it's a shame, but It's understandable. This happened. This happened with Palm. It's happened with a lot of companies that go through this.
It's like these people never used the N97. You only had to use that phone to realize that change was required. It boggles me. Absolutely. Oh, man. And I remember reading this, and I think I very nearly spit up some coffee that I was drinking at the same time because I thought it was a joke. It's one of those ridiculous stories. Raphael, anything to add?
No, you guys said it beautifully. I have no words to explain this. This is crazy. Now, Paul Thurrott and I were talking about this recently, and we were talking about how there should be a process in place where we can recoup the waste of money that our government has. The legal system waste. They should be responsible for that stuff.
Yeah, they actually kind of are. They're starting to set up. There's some laws now saying if you bring frivolous lawsuits that you'll bear the cost to the court.
They have to.
Lose. Yeah, so there seems to be some penalties. I don't know if that'll affect this case. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer. So let's talk about the cloud. The cloud's future on Windows. What's this about, Jay?
So I thought it was worth just pointing out because there's still an awful lot unknown right now about the future of Windows Phone. So when we saw some news this week regarding how services are going to change and we're going to move away from the Windows Live ID to the Microsoft account, Windows Live, in fact, as a brand is generally going, it'll just be the SkyDrive will still exist and you'll have Microsoft account and then mail, calendar, people, messaging. It was sort of interesting to look at these details and see that we're also expecting Zune brands probably going to die out as well. It's just a further proof that the cloud is going to be, or Microsoft are sticking with the whole 3 screens and a cloud situation. And it's got me kind of curious about how that's going to fit in with Windows Phone 8 and whether or not what we'll see is will we see these rebranding changes coming back down to Windows Phone 7? Will it just be a case of Windows Phone 8 comes out and straight away you'll have all access to these cloud options and this dream will be realized straight away? But I thought it was just worth mentioning that Windows Live is basically dying.
Which is good. We've always made fun of those names. I thought they were always terrible. Microsoft has always had a branding issue. Simply calling things mail, calendar, contacts, or people it is the smart way to go. Don't do silly things with the I or try to coin a new term. Just call them the basic services. Is what people want. And the only problem is if you do this too much, you get like Google, and then you just have like strange verbs in front of or after Google Play, sure, and voice, chat.
Yeah,
I always confuse voice and chat. Because they kind of overlap too in messaging. I don't know. It does get a little crazy, but I think this is an appropriate path. And also, I just want to plug my tutorial. If you haven't read, if you have a live ID and you want to switch, I finally figured out how to do it. I've been meaning to do this for months and finally did change it, and it worked beautifully actually. Except I had a hard reset my phones. But now I'm curious, of course, whether or not they're switching over to getting rid of the live stuff, right? And they're going to Microsoft ID or what do they call it, Microsoft account. But I don't know what that means for their email. Like
they will still keep hotmail.com despite the fact that it's got so much.
No, they'll keep Hotmail, they'll keep LiveMail, and live.com. But are they going to come out with a third one? If the live services are dead, does it make sense to still have live.com for your email? But what would they come up with? We're not going to get Microsoft.
You can't be Microsoft.com, can you? I like the idea of M-mail or mail.
I think that'll just become like a vanity domain,
Or just choose your own domain.
Yeah, when you go sign up for a new account, I think Live's still going to be in there. It sounds cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the only reason. That was one of the reasons why I switched to, because I had a Hotmail. And I was just like, I can't. I cringe when I see someone with a Hotmail address. Even though I like it, I'm like, oh man, what are you from? 1990? It's like because it's saying like an AOL email address or a Yahoo. It's like, who uses that? There's just something inherently uncool about Hotmail. But because I'm actually using it now, Hotmail is actually really good. The live mail system is really, really nice. And so I'm starting all over. I'm going to create a series pretty soon about switching over to all Microsoft stuff. Like I've finally given up Chrome as my primary browser. I'm using IE9 now. And it's not even because like IE9 wasn't good. It was just you get so hooked into a way a browser looks and feels. You just know how it works that to change that it's sort of jarring, especially when you use it every single day as a tool. And so I did that. I switched from, Dropbox to SkyDrive. I switched to using Live Mail now as my primary email. And so I'm doing all these changes to, because one, they're good, but also because I want to kind of curious about riding on this. And so Microsoft's doing good with these services. I'm telling you, I'm really kind of excited about it. So,
just for the record, by the way, Jilly Squeeze from our chat room has the best option: micromail. That's brilliant. I love that.
There probably already is micromail out there. I guarantee it's already exists. It's almost too generic.
Have you looked at their chart of services and how everything's moving around? What do you guys think about the lack of Skype in that? No?
I think it's still too early for them to do it. I think based on the number of, and seriously, if you go and look at Microsoft's job postings at the moment, everything is hiring to get Skype into a system, into everything, and to keep the brand of Skype going. They won't rebrand Skype. I just don't think that would ever happen. I think it's too strong a brand as it is. I mean, why spend that amount of money on a brand that you're not going to keep?
Yeah. I was just curious, though, because on their messaging, it says they're moving from MSN Messenger, Windows Live Messenger, to now just the messaging app. It's like,
well, it's going to link into Facebook quite heavily as well, remember?
That's true, yeah.
So I think they'll move away.
I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to see this, plug into Skype messaging too, eventually. So you'll have, I bet you'll have Skype messaging built into Windows Phone Messaging Hub. That's where I think the integration will happen. Whether or not full VoIP capabilities will be integrated into the OS, that's actually an interesting question, only because you do have this carrier concern of not pushing Skype too hard onto the carriers, or at least so. And this was an interesting discussion with Elop and the investors about how Microsoft, since they control Skype, can actually offer better services to carriers. For instance, they can offer premium services with Skype that the carriers then can get in on and charge money for. So that is actually a good thing that Microsoft and Nokia can leverage. How that actually happens, though. So I'm curious about whether we'll see full integration of VoIP into Windows Phone 8, or whether that'll be a carrier thing or a regional thing, or what's going to happen there. But I definitely think messaging will be mixed into that, and that'd be pretty cool, actually.
So let's talk about continuing this whole branding thing. We're going to start seeing some Microsoft stores. Dan, I think it was you that posted this one up. Obviously, this is now all US, so I'm just going to sit back and listen.
Yeah, well, this has been going on for a while. Microsoft's been opening up these stores across the U.S., mostly on the West Coast. They're strategically placing them near Apple stores, which is kind of funny. They're actually really nice stores. I think people have been arguing for this for a long time, that Microsoft just needs this presence. And now they actually have some actually cool consumer stuff revolving mostly around the Xbox 360 and Kinect. But Windows 8 is going to be pretty impressive. It's gotten, most people are really excited about it. And then you have Windows Phone now too. So they actually have neat stuff to actually physically show off in these stores. And they often run very good sales and discounts and offers that I think it's great. And so to have this presence in the malls and these well-designed stores that are like well-lit and are kind of Apple-ish, but not nearly as snobby, I think it's great. Now, everybody's complaining, of course, that it's taken a long time for them to expand. But let's be clear here. This is an experiment for them. And they don't want to be like, we're opening 200 stores across the U.S. and then imagine 2 years from now we're shutting down 100 of those. That would be an awful headline, So they're being a little cautious. I think that's important. We ran a list of unofficial lists of stores that are opening. That's due to we found where they're being hired. I have one literally around the corner from me that I gotta go check in them all. We got pics I gotta send up later of in Danbury, Connecticut, my old home state, where there's the store being built there as we speak. It's actually in construction too, sort of like Boston, which is getting its store. Now, the one here in Huntington, where I live, is interesting because it's being put in the same mall with one of the top Apple stores in the region. Apple has a couple stores in New York, one on Long Island, and a couple, I think maybe one or two in New York City. And so the one out here in Long Island actually is extremely busy and does very well and gets a lot of press. They're going to have one right there in the mall next to it, and so that's actually kind of funny. I don't know. It's an interesting decision. I think it's smart. Microsoft needs to be aggressive here. And so I think consumers are looking to have it. I'm very excited to have this actually around the corner. So, and teach them about Windows Phone. So.
Yeah. And every time I walk past one of these stores, it's always really busy. Unlike the Sprint stores. But yeah, you walk past them, everyone's engaged with the Kinect and running around with like boxes and bags all over the place. It's kind of nice to see.
Yeah, so we have to look forward to that. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see them expand more and stuff. But go check out that list if you're curious if your region's getting one. It's slowly happening, so it's a good thing.
Cool. So let's move on to the apps. We've got 2 games to talk about, one and 2 betas, in fact. So that'll be fun. Start off with Feed Me Oil. I've just downloaded this game and started playing the first couple of levels. And I have to say, it looks right up my street.
Yeah, it's actually pretty challenging. Thank God for those hints, right? It's actually, it's great. Graphically, it's gorgeous. It just absolutely looks good. It's made by Chilingo, who makes quite a few games, especially on iOS. And so it's nice to have them bring a title over, a pretty big title, too, the Windows Phone. I think it's, I don't know that exclusive, but we're one of the first platforms, I think, to launch this one. And the best part of all this, of course, it's 99 cents out the gate. I mean, this is normally easily a $2.99 game on the old system, but 99 cents, it's a steal. It's a challenging physics puzzler game. I know some people don't like these or don't think we need them, but I'm telling you, these casual games are what people want. And I happen to enjoy them too, but I think it's brilliant. Raphael, have you tried it yet? Probably not.
Yeah, I was showing it on the screen. Yeah, I've tried this, and let me tell you, if you take cartoonish graphics, put some cutesy little eyeballs on them, I will buy it every time. I love this stuff. This is a big departure from the word-based boring games. I love this stuff. And
so, did you buy iBlast Mocky when it was released as well?
iBlast what?
iBlast Mocky. It's well worth going back and checking out. It's one of the only games I've ever got all the achievements for.
Does it have eyeballs in it?
It has little things that you blast around and scream as they go flying. It's brilliant.
It's kind of like a Snood, right? Yeah, it's sort of like a Snood type game, which old school one was.
It was awesome, and this one resembles, as we pointed out, Enigmo, which was good but ridiculously difficult because it starts getting very, very challenging. I sort of had to give up with that game because I just couldn't do it anymore. But it feels like it's going to be more fun than Enigma and perhaps a little bit less convoluted. So I'm definitely excited to possibly complete this one as well.
Yeah.
So Pac-Man Kart Rally. Let's go to last week's Xbox Live game. Who's bought that?
I have.
Silence.
I actually did. I buy almost everything. I'm really pathetic. And I bought it for $4.99 too.
Have you got any friends to play with?
I haven't tried the local multiplayer. In fact, I barely got to play it. I know. What happened was I put up my Titan 2, and then I had to hard reset my Titan 2, so I haven't been able to load it back up yet. I mean, the game's actually not that bad. It's actually kind of fun to play. The music is annoying, that's for sure, and the sound could be better. It could overall be a better game, and there's no argument, but it's not too bad. $4.99 was definitely not worth it. $2.99, it's worth considering. The multiplayer on the Wi-Fi, it's not a huge selling point, but it's a good. It also depends on, obviously,
it's a pretty huge selling point.
Well, I mean, only if you have people around you that have one of those phones that you regularly hang around with on the same Wi-Fi.
But it's the kind of thing we need for the Xbox Live integration and the branding to make sense. Because if it's Xbox Live, it's got to involve multiplayer.
Yeah.
That's my
racing games, I ultimately find a little bit boring after a while. They just, you're just going around in circles and stuff. It's not too bad, but, whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try this because local Wi-Fi multiplayer is actually quite a technical feat. You can't just take a phone and connect to another because neither phone can listen on a socket. They can't listen for connections. So there has to be some sort of intermediate server. And then, what do you tell that server that the other phone exists? You give it an IP address? Well, how does that work? I'm going to have to dissect it now and see how they did that.
There we go.
Sounds like a plan.
So that's the thing. Basically, Raphael hears about a new app with a new feature and goes, "Oh, I must take it apart."
Yeah, I don't care about Pac-Man. I hate Pac-Man, but now it's got local Wi-Fi. I got to check it out.
You're that guy who buys a new TV and immediately takes it apart just to see how small the components are, aren't you? So that was Pac-Man Kart Rally. I played it. I have to say, it's probably the best kart rally game that we have on Windows Phone. But then again, the last one was dismal. So there you go. I think probably the more exciting app for me was Nokia City Lens. Have you guys downloaded this? You're both Nokia Lumia owners. Have you picked up City Lens?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
It's awesome, nice. Right?
Yep.
Exactly. It's a well done app. I was using it on the bus home tonight, much to a lot of people looking at me like I was that weirdo on the bus, which for the record I normally am. But I was just sort of standing there putting it up against the window and going, "Oh, look, the pub's going past me." I don't know what I was expecting to happen, but that made me happy. So
here's my only issue with these apps. I think it's well done. I think Nokia did a great job. I think it's really cool. I talk about how LG basically had this app called Scan Search last year. No one cared, and which is a shame because like I always said, LG did nice OEM apps, and they did. They did this, like I said, over a year ago. They had this app, basically the same thing, and no one cared. I'm just saying the problem with these AR apps, and then I mentioned also Wikitude. If you don't have a Samsung. Nokia device, you can go get Wikitude, which is a free app that does the same thing too. I'll say Nokia is more refined and it's a little bit nicer, but Wikitude actually has more options. My problem with these apps is they're really cool for about 5 minutes, and then I don't know. Do people actually really use this on the streets and holding it up?
So here's the thing that it actually impressed me, and I didn't even realize this was a feature until I read George's extended hand-on with it today.
The way you hold it changes.
The way you hold it. So I just immediately went with camera augmented reality, but of course you hold it portrait, you get the list of nearby things. You hold it flat landscape like that, and you get a map to show you what's going on. Now that map is really hard to use because pretty quickly you've accidentally tilted it too much again. But I was impressed, as in it works well.
LG's Scan Search did the exact same thing too. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't really that like original. Scan Search, if you held on flat, it was a map, and you held it up, it changed. I mean, these apps are kind of, that's just what they do. They're not. They've been around for a while. I'm just curious if people are actually going to actually really use it, because I think augmented reality is still sort of like virtual reality. It's like, it sounds awesome, we all want it, and then it's kind of like a front-facing camera. You know, everybody wants it, and then you get it, and you're like, okay. And
let's be honest, we want it, but we want it the way that Google showed it off, like the concept of having it in your glasses or little eye.
Right. I'm just not curious if you're holding your phone up like that in the streets, and you know.
Do you know what? If I did that in the neighborhood that I live in, I'd get about 5 steps down the road and someone would take it out of my hands. So,
yeah, I'd say with New York City. New York City is like the crime rate has gone through the roof for petty theft of stealing cell phones. It's a big business, and they actually buy so you don't use your cell phone, like pull it out on the subway while you're waiting.
Really?
Which is like when everybody uses their phone, right? Everybody's looking at their devices like that. So obviously you got to judge it. If you're in the middle of the day at 3 p.m. in Central Park, it's not going to be a big deal. But if you're 12 o'clock at night traveling by yourself, you may not want to be pulling out your $500 phone and using augmented reality to see what's around you. So that's Nokia City Lens. It's a nice effort. Once again, Nokia's solid app though. It's very well designed. Let's quickly talk about Viber. We've been covering this for a long time. So Viber came out a long time ago saying we're not doing an app because we don't have access to sockets and the API layer and everything that we need. And same reason Skype. And Skype did the same thing, that they weren't doing it. This was back in like 2010. Viber was very public on Twitter though about complaining about this, and finally, some of us were just like, just talk to Brandon Watson. Like, just ask, And sure enough, he got set up, and Brandon Watson started engaging, and then some background discussions happened, and it took a while. But Viber did get access with Microsoft and have co-developed this app, which is why it's really nice, actually. Now, we should point out, of course, it's a beta, and it's a functionally limited beta, meaning the VoIP part is actually not there yet. It will be coming, but as soon as it's up to their specs. But they did push out this messaging app, and it's actually really pretty and works well. So it's yet another chat option, just like we also announced, a TalkBot coming out, which is also a really nice app for this messaging, and that sends voice clips. So we're getting a lot of choice now. There's a lot of good options on Windows Phone, so choose your poison,
Exactly. Raphael, have you tried out Viber? I don't think it's available over here. I haven't tried.
I haven't tried it. I don't care about these apps, to be honest. I don't do SMS or any of that crap. Kick. If I had to pick one, I would probably pick Kick just because it's the one I'm most familiar with.
Raphael, are you saying you're too cool to text?
I don't text. I see it as a devolved form of communication. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, you tweet.
I do tweet. Yeah, I understand the.
Well, at least in TalkBox, you can send voice clips, which takes out the typing. It's a little bit easier. It's kind of like a walkie-talkie thing. So
yeah. Now I did disassemble this app, and they're not using any native API. So I don't know what their issue was.
Well, for VoIP, I imagine it will.
Oh, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah. So with the messaging part, yeah, there shouldn't be too much. I mean, it's just I mean, it's so different than what Kik and WhatsApp is, right? So, but eventually we'll see what happens with it. So that'll be worth following.
Cool.
So quickly, we're already at an hour.
We're almost running out of time. I'm going to very, very, very quickly pull one story out of the rest, and that is the for those in the UK, the Windows Phone bar camp that's being run by the Windows Phone user group guys. Reason I'm going to just put it off, basically, it's happening.
That's the one story you chose, the bar camp.
That's the one story, and I'll tell you why. Because on Saturday, on May 19th, I'm presenting. So if you want to come and listen to me have a little chat about my experiences, some tips for developers, and talk about my new open source project, I'm going to be presenting, and there'll be plenty of beer and banter and chat, and a good chance to meet a lot of developers. So May 19th at the Vibe Bar on Brick Lane in London. Come along, come say hi. It's for a whole day, and it's on a Saturday as well. For those of you who are worried about getting down, you've got an excuse to come visit London. Go on, pick one out that you want to talk about.
I guess real quickly we'll talk about the 900 issues. Yeah, Raphael, you can talk about your problems since you have a lot of them.
Yeah, so like we wrote on the site, Nokia has finally come out and confirmed that that purple screen issue does exist. And just a quick recap, it's an issue that exhibits when your screen brightness is at its lowest setting, which is a setting that most of us don't really use anyway. But if you set it to the low setting, it turns a little purple on the grayish parts of the screen. Nokia came out, said they're going to fix it in the next, or not next, but a software update. Now, as to the other issues, like power, the charger not being detected right away, or the sound issues, or the vibrating issues, or the connectivity issues, there's no word there yet. That might just be me. It might be your phone. You might want to get it swapped out. But yeah.
I think some of those, like the vibrate issue, the creaky corner, some people, and I had this in one of my phones.
Creaky corner?
In the upper right-hand corner of the device. Let's see if I can hold mine up here.
That just sounds like a really weird bar.
The creaky corner. If here, you can squeeze, and there'll be some play, and it'll be the screen. And it has to do with the SIM drawer, and you can kind of feel it creaking a little bit. So that's on all phones, but some of them have it. I had at least one of them, and so I had my white Lumia had these problems. The vibrate was not as loud as the Lumia, the black one, but it was still didn't sound good. And then I had the purple screen, all that. Now I contacted Nokia about this story, sent it out to a couple people there, and also told them about the poll. And so they were paying attention to it. They're very interested. They also sent me a new white Lumia 900, and I sent them back mine, which they were going to take a look at their labs. Some of that, I think, is production issues. So it's just the fact that they're pumping these devices out. They have new production facilities. And obviously, these are some things that I need to fix on the line. Not uncommon. HTC just had this problem, too, with, I think it was the 1X, some paint issue that they had. Some stuff was coming off. Or I don't know if it was the 1X. It was maybe the 1S. And so stuff like this happens when you're, mass producing these devices. I'm happy to say the Lumia 900 they sent me is mints. That has no problems whatsoever. Even the vibrate is quiet, and that's my third one. To see that. So I'm actually pretty excited. Actually, it's actually
I don't think I have this corner issue. I'm so excited.
Yes. So at least you don't have that one. But, some of these, like I said, it's production. They got to iron out the wrinkles. It's a shame. If it really bothers you, definitely try to exchange it. We'll look forward to purple screen update whenever that comes. But I don't think it's a dire issue, so they're going to roll it up into presumably another patch, including possibly Tango, which this phone should be getting. And so, we'll see what happens. Nokia is really good at responding to this stuff. I'll give them that. And their customer service has been excellent. And this is one thing I do like about them. Even when they do have mistakes and scripts, they're more than willing to, one, acknowledge it and to fix it. And you can actually contact them and get a human who cares. I can't say that about HTC and Samsung. I don't want to be mean, but it's a completely different experience. Even I have as someone in media that deals with this. I have much better access with Nokia than I do with those companies. I mean, having said that, the Titan 2 for me doesn't have a single bug or problem with it. So, but Nokia's warming up, right? They're new to Windows Phone. They got to get it. I described it as they're like a college kid freshman year. Really smart, has all the potential, but still learning the environment and getting used to things. And so I think Nokia will shape up and get this stuff ironed out pretty quickly.
Let's move on to community because we are a bit short on time now. So comments and questions from last time. I'm going to start out with AJ0601. And Daniel, I'm going to direct this question at you. He's asking mods, which is you. He wanted to see if we could comment on the web traffic to this site as a proxy for the popularity of Lumia. To him, it seems like traffic has exploded from the forums and the comments as well. Do you have a comment to go with that?
Yeah, no, our traffic has definitely gone up. There's no doubt about it. If you look at our traffic, you can go look at it. It's at alexa.com. You can type this in. It's a public thing. That doesn't necessarily make it the most accurate gaugement of analytics for our site. Analytics, Raphael probably knows something about this stuff too. I know. I'm just getting into it a little bit. It's tough how you actually measure traffic on your site. But no, we're definitely increasing, and it gets better almost every week. It's hard to judge exactly what that means. We're doing a better job of SEO and trying to get our site noticed and other people to cite us. We also break a lot of stories. And then our forums, we also focus a lot on here to drive community, since we're sort of the only site that has a major forum set up. But no, it's definitely increasing. Has it exploded? I don't know if I would say it's exploded, but it's a nice steady increase, and we've been seeing that ever since 2010. So,
which makes us really happy.
Yeah. The numbers are good. And we're getting there. Some days
we love you guys. It's awesome.
Some days our traffic looks like it catches up with iMore, our sister site that focuses on Apple. We're still behind Android Central, and probably will be for some time. But no, we actually, we're doing well.
So next question from Relon was, what does it need to learn to make apps for Windows Phone 7? I'm going to very quickly point out that it's C# and XAML is the best way starting. Have a look on our developer forums and have a chat to some of the guys there, and also check out the resources on the Windows Phone App Hub at create.msdn.com is a great place to get started. There's a massive question by Gergelos, which I'm going to come back to in a second, because I did one, because it's he was basically doing actually no, I'll do it now, what the hell. He was basically trying to find out how long he could use his Windows Phone without feeling like it needed to be restarted as a test, and the results of his very unscientific test is that he used his 7 Pro or Arrive HTC for 111 days without any lags or problems, and then finally had to give it a restart. Just a little cool bit of information there. Thank you for sharing that with us. What else have we got? I'm going to skip past that one quickly. There's one from Kid Genius, which, Daniel, I'm going to put to you. He was asking, on the Nokia Lumia 900, he had a go on the store and noticed that the capacitive buttons do not vibrate as much as on his Samsung Focus. Do you notice that as well, or do you think it was a defective unit in his store?
No, that's this is something that OEMs can vary on how they choose, how strong and vibrate they want on touch. It's a mild touch. I'm okay with it. I don't have any issues, but they do that because vibrate takes an enormous amount of battery. I don't think people realize how much battery it takes to shake the phone. But any moving part that you're going to have a motor consumes a lot of battery. So OEMs frequently will try to turn that down as much as they can. And you can argue that capacitive buttons don't need that much vibrate. You just need to actually just feel the sensation to know you registered, but you don't need to shake the phone ridiculously. So that is something that does vary. It doesn't bother me, but everybody's mileage may vary. I'm curious which phone has the strongest. I've never actually sat there and tried to figure that. I have noticed I have two Titans, and one feels a little bit different than the other as far as strength. So that's kind of strange. One's international, one's AT&T. So there you go.
Another one more from at Krager. First of all, we said great podcast. We should go back to weekly podcasts as a suggestion. It's a bit too difficult for us to do that, so we're probably sticking with this bi-weekly for now. Secondly, he says that I'd said it on the Mobile Nations podcast. I'm going to paraphrase what he's put in his comment here, that all three of us have in some way or another mentioned that we prefer the new generation of Windows phones compared to the old ones, and he wants to defend his HTC Trophy on Verizon, as he absolutely loves it, and he says that he basically got it on launch day. Yes, he had the disappearing keyboard for a while, but thanks to our announcement in the podcast, he found out that there was the update, and he's very glad for that. But he wants to point out that there's not an awful lot of problems with regards to lag. The only problems that he has is running things like Dragon's Blade, some like a big RPG. But from his point of view, he doesn't see much difference between the new phones and the old phones. Raphael, what's your thoughts there? You've recently upgraded to a second gen phone.
Yes, so I totally understand where he's coming from. I'm a first gen Focus guy, not even an S. I would have stayed on that phone if there weren't all these great apps coming out of the Nokia camp there. If you have no real reason to upgrade, your experience is going to be the same no matter what phone you're on. Maybe with the exception of one or two phones out there that just run poorly. But Microsoft has done a good job at ensuring all these apps run great on all the phones, and don't upgrade if you don't have to. Now you're gonna have to sooner or later when Apollo comes out. But
he's on Verizon, so he has no choice. He said that the Trophy is a great phone. I always liked the design of it. I thought it was great. I wish they would upgrade it, but there is differences with Gen 2. There's no doubt. The screens tend to be a lot better. When you see the Gen 2 screens, everybody got their act together on that. HTC's Super LCD is really cool now. Of course, you have Samsung's AMOLED and then Nokia's AMOLED Plus Clear Black, which just won that best screen contest, basically beating out the iPhone 4S and Galaxy S. Not necessarily a 1X, which wasn't tested, which would be its biggest challenger, but still, 900 gets a lot of credit for its screen, and rightly so. So there are these differences. The cameras between Gen 1 and Gen 2 are night and day. They're much better. All the companies, once again, improve that technology. Reception tends to be a little better, too, and same with data speeds. That doesn't mean if you have a Gen 1 device to hate it, obviously. There's still some really good Gen 1 phones out there. You're limited what your options are. But, if at this point in the game, as Raphael said, might as well just opt for Apollo because those are going to be some pretty killer hardware. So,
very, very quick question then from Greasy Taco Aficionado, which I'm going to ask one person to answer briefly if they know the answer. Regarding the $100 refund Nokia offered Lumia 900 buyers, do we know if Nokia paid this full amount or was there some combination of Microsoft, AT&T, and Nokia? Anyone know?
We have no idea. My bet is Nokia. I mean, it was technically their fault, and I bet AT&T probably was like, hey, you want to do that? I'm sure that's probably what happened. I'll know even I got the $100 rebate, which was cool because I bought my phone on the 21st. And so I got the 900 for free, which was really nice, especially since I only had to renew my contract by 3 months, which was cool. So.
Okay, so let's go to the chat room then, because we're running a bit short on time, as always, to try and pick up some live questions. The first one, because Easy Peasy JD has been asking us for ages, for you, Dan, are you going to do anything with his Operation Metro plan? Do you know what he's talking about?
Oh, right. Operation Metro was this idea that we're going to barrage and besiege certain companies that aren't producing apps, basically harassing. I don't know. It's sort of like anonymous, right?
That's strange.
I'm not convinced necessarily that would work. It's not a bad idea. It could be kind of fun, but at the same time, these companies just simply look at market share, and that's what's their driving factor. And you also have small companies. I mean, Instagram, which now has officially become, I think, a unit of money measurement. I know people have been talking about Avengers has made half an Instagram so far. That company's got like 11 or 12 people working for it. That was it. That's the size of Instagram. And they sold for $1 billion. But it goes to show you that a company that size, how many resources they had to devote towards app development. And they only had 2 people develop for Android. So these companies tend to be sort of small. So on the one hand, I sympathize with hammering them. At the same time, we have to take into account, certain companies. Now, something like PayPal or, bringing Amazon.com to, Europe. Those are, I think, sort of legitimate things we could kind of harass companies. I'm still not convinced it would necessarily do anything, but it would at least highlight the issue and sort of make some noise. So, it's something worth considering. As far as will I have time to do that, I'm always short on time. It took me 2 months to review the LG Fantasy, which was a piece of crap. But I had that phone literally for 2 months. Yeah, thank you. But I had that phone for 2 months.
Piece of crap.
It's sitting on this huge exclusive, and I'm just like, then I'll get around to it eventually. So we'll see.
What else have we got? Alex Correa was trying to ask if we know when there's a pinball game coming out, one of the ones that was in the next 10 games along with Pac-Man and Feed Me Oil. I'm not sure which one he's talking about, Daniel. Are you familiar with the pinball game that's due?
Was it the pinball game? Pinball Effects 2, I think it's called.
Ones. That might be the one.
Yeah. We don't have any
release date yet.
We don't have any direct info right now about that, but Paul, our games writer, is about to get some information on that, so pay attention. We'll have some exclusive details on that coming up probably in the next couple of days. So
there you go.
I'm very excited about that, actually. I very much love mobile pinball games and definitely want this.
Sounds good. The only other question that I've seen, which I quite liked, MJR90 was pointing out, are Apollo BB10, iOS 6, and Jelly Bean all due to go to market in the September-October timeframe, in which case it would be crazy. I actually don't think we're going to get Apollo this year. Now I'm starting to think this is going to be a next year situation.
Oh, really? No, I think it'll definitely be out by the end of the year. I definitely think that'll happen. I think if anything,
I'm just surprised we haven't heard much about it. I know we've got DevCon coming up, which is going to talk a bit about everything. But,
the reason you don't hear much about it is because the inside kind of meme that's going around, I guess, I don't know if it's a meme, but is that, you know how they did the big Mango reveal? And they told us all the new features, and they really pimped it out. And then it was a couple months before we all got it. It did a lot to generate buzz, but it was also kind of bad in the sense that Microsoft's competitors were able to sort of see way in advance what they were going to do and started mimicking a lot of stuff. And apparently some people at Microsoft were a little bit sore about that. So that's sort of why they're keeping a lot of Windows Phone 8 info under wraps. I think they want to sort of, they kind of want to do an Apple thing, right? Where they just go a week before it's going to come out. Or they can
I'd love it if they do that, actually. I have to be honest.
Well, yeah, and so they can take their competitors.
Yes and no, you need some time for the developers to get on board.
Well, there will be the SDKs and stuff like that, so that's going to come out. I think that'll be, Microsoft coincidentally just announced the developer summit in June out in San Francisco.
I wish I could go to that.
And I'm pretty sure they're going to be doing SDK, info out there on Apollo. And then we have another conference out in October, which is going to cover Apollo stuff. I still think they'll definitely, if anything, I think Windows Phone 8 is probably slightly ahead of schedule or on schedule. They've been actually really good with the execution so far, so I don't see it as being delayed. Having said that, I still think a November timeframe is probably pretty safe to bet.
Raphael, would you be going to DevCon? You bet it's San Francisco. And if anyone from Microsoft's listening and wants to pay for a transatlantic flight, I'm here. Just saying.
It is really close to me, so I should probably go.
You can be our reporter.
Yeah.
Well, the offer is extended to Raphael to go, so he's just got to see if he can get off from work, I think. But yeah. So I'm definitely going. I just got to book my flights and stuff. But
okay.
I'll also probably be at E3 over the summer in June, and then this thing also in June. So I've never been to California, so I'm gonna go there twice apparently in the same month. That'll be kind of fun.
Sounds good. And Easy Peasy JD is just asking where is DevCon? San Francisco, right?
Yep.
Yeah. There you go.
Although it's invite only.
No.
Right. What?
Well, WordPress.
I was just commenting on the guy was asking where it's at. It's not like he can go, right?
Right. Yeah, I think it is invite only. Yeah.
Did we get an invite then?
Of course, we'll get an invite.
Did the developer of our app get an invite?
Exactly. Developer of our app did not. There haven't been invites sent out. Invites haven't been sent out yet. Only an announcement that invites will be sent out. That's all Microsoft did, was basically said we're gonna have a conference. More info coming in a couple of weeks. That's basically what the announcement was. So there's no solid details yet. We'll as soon as we get that, we'll cover it though.
Cool. Yep. So looking forward to the coverage. I think that about wraps us up, especially on time. Who's going to go for it today?
I can do it today.
Go for it.
Because I went out and typed it all out, prepared it. So anyway.
Oh, you got to change my Twitter though. The Twitter is wrong on there, Jay.
Already did it.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Raphael.
Yeah. So, thanks for watching or listening to our WP Central podcast here. You can find us all on Twitter at WP Central. Daniel, Big Boss Man, you can find him at, if you're clever, you can still find him at Malatesta77, or you can use his boring new handle, Daniel_Rubino. Our reviews editor, George Ponder, at CopperTop004. That's the next guy we're gonna have to pummel
to change. Right.
Yeah, to change. Our writers: Rich Edmonds at Rich Edmonds, Jay, that weirdo guy in the middle there, J.T. Bennett, Paul Acevedo. I cannot pronounce his last name. I apologize. At Segacon.
I think that's right.
He does all the fun stuff. Myself at Within Raphael, and Matt at Rogue Code. And our forums admin, Dave Blake at big_D5. This has been a Mobile Nations podcast. Go to mobilenations.com for great shows covering everything mobile, or just head over to the WP Central forums if you'd like to get involved with the community discussing more about, Lumia 900 bugs, Windows Phone news, devices, etc. And thanks to the WP Central store for sponsoring the podcast. All the monies comes from them. And thanks to our great artists for all the music that you have not heard yet, but will in the edited copy of this podcast. And to ccmixter.org for offering a great database of Creative Commons music. All right.
There you go. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll be back hopefully in 2 weeks again, and send us your questions, and we'll keep listening. Take care, everybody.
See you later.